First video of 2024, wow.
Wow.
Exciting stuff. It's that time where we all get a little bit over-ambitious about our goals for the new year. Now, I have nothing against goals. I think goals, or intentions as I like to call them, are very important because they do give us a sense of direction as people, as creatives, as professionals. However, I have a tendency to get a little overexcited about setting New Year's goals and get pretty overwhelmed within about the first month of trying to achieve them. They're either too big, too outside of my control, or flat out unaligned with what I actually want to be doing. I think it's very easy to quickly fall into the trap of comparing our goals with everybody else's. All of a sudden, your vacation to New Orleans doesn't sound as exciting as the trip to Paris that your cousin's planning. Your goal to work out 3 times a week sounds a little bit sad next to your best friend's goal of weightlifting 7 days a week. Or maybe your plan to take up a new hobby in bread baking doesn't really sound quite as adventurous as your brother trying out for Olympic rock climbing. I don't even know if that's an Olympic sport, but you get my point. With everyone sharing their goals for 2024, it can be pretty discouraging when yours don't look like somebody else's. My goals so far for the year are quite small. I'm really trying to embrace a little bit of a slower living mentality, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been very hard not comparing my goals to those around me. So before we get into chatting about the goals themselves, I want to encourage you to be confident in the goals you've set for this year. Your life is beautifully unique, and so are your goals. The goals of somebody else don't diminish yours. So whether you set big goals for this year or small ones, just be happy with them and give them all you've got. Just make sure that they align with your journey and not somebody else's. So with that, let's chat about our goals. At the end of 2023, I was wrapping up my 20 illustrations challenge, filming the tour video for that, preparing for Christmas, and just marinating in the juices of the year I'd had, for lack of a better term. I did a lot of reflecting on the year. In short, I'd had a pretty hard year in a lot of ways, a lot of grief, a lot of chronic illness, just kind of kicking my butt and lowering me to a little bit of a new plateau. I struggled early on in the year with just not really enjoying art anymore and trying to decide if art was even something I wanted to keep pursuing as a career or as a hobby for that matter.
I was a little stressy,
to say the least. Now don't get me wrong, there were also a lot of really good things. We adopted Annie Jane, I found out I'm gonna be an aunt, I discovered the Marquee Meadow in my artwork, got monetized on YouTube, and completed my 20 illustrations challenge. And those are all really good things. So towards the end of December, when I was thinking about all of this and trying to figure out what goals I wanted to set for the new year, I just kept kind of blanking. I didn't really have any big goals that I wanted to set. I'd finally reached a point where I'd made peace with where I was and with everything that had happened over the year, but I was tired. I needed to take some time to rest and recover. The word that kept coming to mind was nurture, and nurture means to care for and encourage the growth or development of something. I realized that that's what I really needed. I didn't need to be setting huge goals or pursuing these big projects just because there's that whole
new year, new me
mindset. I just needed to take some time and nurture what I already have. Obviously nurturing things like my health and my relationships, but also nurturing my creative practice. Instead of setting big goals for the whole year, I wanted to kind of just take it 1 month at a time for right now. So my goal or intention for January is to fill 5 pages in my messy sketchbook each week to nurture a love for my creative practice and showing up consistently to it. I love sketchbooks. I particularly love playing around with different mediums on my sketchbook, like ballpoint pens and highlighters and colored pencils. These mediums are permanent. Well, maybe not the colored pencils, you can kinda erase those. But these permanent and semi-permanent mediums really help me be a lot looser when I'm sketching. They make space for creativity to be a much bigger part of the conversation. When I make a mark I didn't intend to, I have to do some creative problem solving to work it into the sketch. These mediums help me be more playful and more explorative in my sketchbook. But for the past several months, I've kind of been avoiding my sketchbook. I developed this really toxic mindset toward it under the guise of
work-life balance.
Once upon a time, I used to take my sketchbook literally everywhere. If we were at church, I was sketching. If we were at the doctor's office, I was sketching. If we were watching a movie, I was probably sketching. But after I became a full-time artist, I decided that wasn't healthy, I guess, because
I just spent all day working on art stuff. I shouldn't be doing art outside of work hours.
Stupid, I know, but that can be a very real mindset when you decide to turn your hobby into a career. I also started replacing my sketching with quote-unquote easier pastimes with more instant gratification. More doom scrolling on social media or watching Netflix shows that I just didn't even really care about. Where even when I actually wanted to be sketching, I'd pick the easier option of, let's say, opening up Instagram, which, let's be honest, isn't really all that gratifying in the end. So long story short, this intention to spend more time in my sketchbook is hopefully going to help me overcome that mindset and simply love just being creative again. To give myself the space to be creative again. To kind of detach that word career from my creativity as a whole. Obviously my creativity is part of my career, but it's also a part of me, if that makes sense. If I want to sketch for a little bit in the evening while I'm watching a movie with my family, I shouldn't make myself feel guilty for doing that outside of my work hours. Anywho, so that's one intention I have for the new year. Another intention I have is to create a workbook to help other creatives with their own creative practices. I've been very blessed to see my YouTube channel grow over the past couple of years, as well as my newsletter and my website and my Instagram, and with that growth came a community. And with that community came people starting to share their own stories with me. So last year, I started trying to really listen when people were telling me the problems they were having in their own creative practices. I noticed there were a few main problems that really seemed to be the most common, and many of those were problems that I was also having or had previously had. So this is partially where that nursery idea started to come to mind. People were coming to me for advice, and I felt like I really did have something to say about the problems they were having. So I decided that I wanted to create a workbook designed to help people nurture their creative practice by identifying the problems they were having, using the resources already available to them, setting an intention to tackle their problem and nurture their creative practice, and ultimately to help them grow. And that's where my sketchbook intention came in. So I released the first draft of the workbook on Patreon this month, so some of my patrons and I are working through it together. After the end of the month, I'm going to try to get some feedback on what worked and what didn't, improve the workbook as needed, and within a few months, release it on my website. Over the years, I've learned just how important it really is to have a community of other creatives around you, and it's really been very encouraging to watch as we all start to share the problems we've been having and encouraging one another as we go through the workbook. So anyways, that's my second intention for the year. Number 3 is taking Justin Donaldson's gouache course this month. I've been wanting to take one of his classes for a couple of years now, and the timing of the January class really aligned perfectly with my schedule right now. Not having any huge projects that I'm working on at the moment, I really felt like I could commit to the class and give it the time and effort it deserves. Y'all know I absolutely love gouache. It is my passion medium. I'm really excited for the opportunity to just learn more about it. There were several things Justin mentioned in the course lessons outline that I was like,
dude, I've never even heard of this. I'm gonna learn so much.
So yeah, that starts on the 14th, and I'm really excited to get gouache again. Number 4, finishing the decor for my niece's nursery. Y'all, this baby is coming crazy fast, and I've only made a very, very small dent in the decorating. So my sister wanted a Marquee Meadow / Bits and Baubles kind of theme for the nursery, so I've been planning out all the fun details of that. Lots of green, lots of art, lots of nature. I just finished framing some flowers I pressed for her, and next I'm going to be working on a few paintings. I'll definitely be making a video of the nursery process, so stay tuned for that. And just like that, we've arrived at the end of my list of intentions so far. Like I said, nothing all that big or fancy. Just kind of embracing a bit of a slower pace, which has really been good for me. I mentioned earlier that I had a couple bouts of illness last year that kind of brought me to a new lower level of health, which, I'm not gonna lie, has been pretty frustrating. Not feeling like I can achieve everything I want to do, or I guess rather attempting to achieve everything I want to do is not going to be healthy for me. Going at a bit of a slower pace this year is helping me come to terms better with my new normal and not be quite so discouraged by it. You know, it's okay to live at a bit of a slower pace if that's what you need to do.
Oh, big exciting piece of news.
We ended 2023 on a very high note with the shop update. Y'all, I'm not gonna lie, I was high-key nervous I wasn't gonna get any orders and wouldn't even make back what I spent on the new prints. Classic Allie jumping straight into the worst case scenario. But I'm very happy to share that I got more orders than I ever have at one time before, well over made back what I spent on the prints, and I got to send out a lot of happy mail. We did have a little bit of a technical glitch the morning of the sale where payments weren't processing, might have freaked out a little bit, but thankfully, with a little bit of Googling, it was a pretty quick fix. So last year I set some pretty big financial goals for my art business that I came absolutely nowhere near close to achieving. So I'm trying to be a little bit gentler with myself as far as finances go in 2024. I haven't set a numerical goal yet for this year because, number one, I really want to focus more on the creative side of my business at the moment, and two, I don't really know what would be a reasonable goal to set. My income streams have definitely grown a lot over the past year with getting monetized here on YouTube and with making more sales on my website, but I haven't really taken a close enough look to determine what a reasonable goal to set would be. I don't want to aim so low that I pass it in the first quarter, but I also don't want to aim too high that I'm absolutely crushed if I don't meet it.
You know what I mean?
I'm also considering closing down my Etsy shop and only selling through my website. I don't know why, but Etsy is very confusing to me, and I cannot for the life of me seem to figure out how to really make it worth my while to sell through it. I don't know, we'll see.
That's not really a decision that needs to be made today.
So, where are we at now? We're almost 2 full weeks into 2024, and I'm having an absolute blast in my sketchbook. I purposely left my sketchbook intention vague in terms of the subject matter because I really wanted to be able to sketch anything that came to mind. Some days I do some gesture studies, some days I sketch animals. Some days I sketch the little bandana girl doing some, gardening. My reward for meeting my intention at the end of this month is buying myself a couple new packs of tomato seeds to plant this year, so tomatoes have been a pretty big inspiration in my sketchbook. I found these crazy cool accordion tomatoes, and I cannot wait to grow them. I'm also going to be purchasing some Alice's Dream tomatoes. I thought they looked pretty cool as well. Not gonna lie, most of my gardening tendencies are geared more toward the plant looking cool rather than knowing whether or not I actually like the taste of it. But anyways, I've really been enjoying spending a lot more time in my sketchbook. I've loosened up so much more, and I'm relearning that you don't have to love every single sketch that you do. It's not the end of the world if you fill a whole page and really only care about one of the sketches on it. Anywho, let's chat a little bit about this sketchbook painting. So I actually did this in December after I finished my illustration challenge. I'd painted a wooden sign in the creative theme painting, and I had the idea to paint a sort of "This Way to the Merry Meadows" sign. I really love wood. I love painting wood, I love the many shapes and textures and colors and grains of wood, and I really wanted to explore trying to make it look like the letters are carved into the wood itself. You have to really look at where the shadows would be to try to create the depth where the carving would be. I don't know that I was all that effective with this, but it was definitely a learning experience. For the arrow though, I just painted that on. Painting paint? Get it? Like,
someone in the Merry Meadow painted an arrow on the wood, but it's in a painting. Anyways, I'm tired. It's been a long morning.
So my plan is the next time Sticker Mule does one of their 50 die cut stickers for X amount of money sales, I'm gonna jump on it. I don't know, man, I think this one would be a really, really cute sticker. Anywho, I'd love to know what you think about this style of video where you see more of the color mixing. I've had quite a few requests to see more mixing footage, but when I'm working on larger paintings like the illustrations challenge, it's really hard to be able to show my palette since I only have one camera. However, with sketchbook pages like this one, I can plop the palette down in frame so you can see more of what I'm doing. So if you like seeing more of the color mixing, let me know. If you don't really care, that's cool too. Thank you guys so much for watching and starting out this new year with me. I hope you enjoyed watching me paint this sketchbook page and chatting with me about goals for 2024. And I'd love to hear down in the comments what your goals are for the new year, artsy or otherwise. Huge thank you to the Cozy Club over on Patreon for helping make this video possible. You guys are absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye guys!